constitution. Most of the tribes had an oral constitution, and the child normally learned it in pieces as he grew up, so that by the time he become the chief, he can recite the constitution from beginning to end without missing a beat. They kept this practice alive in Islam with the ones who remember the Quran called the Hafiz, right? They did the same thing in Christianity. I don't know what they called them, but they used to have people that used to memorize the Bible. Then you have them in India that memorize the Mahabharata. So while all these people is memorizing this stuff, this is based on the old ancient oral tradition. In order to be a thing, you must become that thing in which you aspire to be. And you become it by stage and degree, by little piece or bite of information that you build on top of. When my mama was teaching me stuff when I was a little boy, I never knew that puzzle solving, finding lost things and stuff she used to make a big deal when I was 2-3 years old, that didn't seem like a big deal. Like, why is this such a big deal? Would come back to become a skill that I would need in order to get all of these pieces from different places around the world and put this puzzle together and be like, wait a minute, we got tricked like a mother. Did y'all see that trick? No, we didn't see it. Damn. I'm the only one seeing the trick. You apparently the only one seeing it. You're the only one saying it. Then after I started talking about it, then other people started saying, wait a minute. This guy on to something. He sounded crazy for a minute, but now that I listen to what he's saying, so America was only supposed to be a small settlement. It was never supposed to be a national government. It was never supposed to absorb 50 states or 50 territories under one structure. They did that in violation of every tribe from the East Coast to the West. They figuratively and literally raped us into submission and economically. Look, I keep telling people, if you pay attention to history, it tells on itself. It's not like a far stretch. Now remember, from the narrative they gave us, we all came over from Africa on slave ships. This same narrative, they said that paleface can't teach us to read. It was against the law. Paleface can't sell us land. It's against the law. Paleface can't let us sit at the same dinner tables with them. It was against the law. No, it wasn't. It was against the code of vine and fig tree. Anybody can come over here, but you have to stay in your own community. And that's why you got a Chinatown, right? That's why you got a Koreatown, a little Mexico, or you have a little India, where all of these communities from around the world come over here and they stay together. But then they go out on the land to make a living, but then they all come back to their community, right? The gated communities are the dirty motherfuckers that's running everything in New Jersey and New York. They don't want to intermingle with us on a day-to-day basis. They only want our money. So they go stay in them gated communities and call us every kind of low life it is, because they looking at us as savages living off the fat of the land instead of living off industrialization. I'd rather be living off the fat of the land than working a 9 to 5. I'd rather have a farm than work in the factory. Right? See, all these ladies talking about they want a husband. No, you don't. No, you don't. A husband is a farmer. A husband is a land cultivator. A husband is an animal breeder. He's a geneticist of the family's farm to make sure he can produce the optimum feedstock for the family. He is a seed analyst to determine which seeds to be planted. He is an almanac writer. Fuck the reader. You don't want no husband. That dude got to put in too much work. By the time you get him, he gonna be old as me. And he gonna be wondering why all these people married and lived their whole life while he was just training himself to be a good husband, a good farmer, a good management of the land. You can't manage the land when you have outside forces undermining your management capabilities. So they wasn't allowed to sell us land. This is the kicker. This is the biggest one nobody's paying attention to. Go get Black Labor, White Wealth by Claude Anderson. And look at how much property we owned in 1900. And look at how much property we own now. That's from 1900. Go back further and the plots of land gets much bigger. But the $1 million question that nobody asking is, if these niggas came on slave ships, and if these niggas got free from the plantation, who the hell gave them all this land when they weren't allowed to purchase land from palefaces? Where they get the land that the sharecroppers deceived them out of under sharecropping agreements and fraudulent contracts? Where did these people that look like me get this land if we all came from Africa as slaves and they not allowed to sell us land? Where did we get the fucking land? How do we get land in a place where we are the foreigners? When nobody's allowed to do corporate business with us. Remember, they hide behind the pale faces in order to know when we coming to do business, they ain't one of us, because they wouldn't have been coming to do business with you. That's how you know they one of them people from this land, and they believe this narrative that you actually running this piece. You ain't running nothing. All you is a figurehead. You are a company emblem. You a logo. In my doctrine, in this chess game called white supremacy, we wondering why was we referred to as black. We was on the defense. Black people are the defenders of the land. We are the Black Panthers. We are the Black Gorillas. We are the Black Eagle Clan, the Black Foot, the Black Hawk. All of these is the defending tribes of the non-treaty nations that went from fighting bloody war with guns, spears, and bows and arrows to fighting a war using the conjure, because it was a ceasefire agreement. And the only way to break the contract and end it all is one of the chiefs that's in the amnesia state have to educate himself out of the amnesia. Still don't mean he won't suffer from some of the effects. But I'm going to tell y'all this. If y'all think Rod Hayes cold now, wait until my brain get fixed. My brain broke still. I had epilepsy when I was little because my brain got broke. Wait till, I ain't put back together yet. Wait till I get put back together. Then I'm going to show y'all something. I'm just, like right now, I'm just armchair revolutionarying. I'm giving y'all new lenses to look through to see the deception that's being played, so that the mystic powers over your mind, that childhood fascination they held as people and powers over you, is no longer effective. And that's when we ready to claim what's rightfully ours. People keep asking me, how do I get my ancestors' land back? Well, 9 out of 10, it won't be the same plot, but you will be compensated. The whole land got to be redistributed. The whole structure of all of the clans have to be restructured. New lines of demarcation. New capital cities. New metropolises. Everything has to move from what it was to what we decide as a tribal confederacy, a confraternity of clans across the land, how to re-put this back together. And believe me, I don't believe in life in prison, but I sure as hell believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in life in prison, but I sure as hell believe in the death penalty. Because some of these motherfuckers is not fit for to be living among regular humans. I got to tell y'all that because it's true. I don't have to like it, but it's true. Some of these people that's in these institutions is so effed up that they are not fit to walk the street with regular people because they're going to be a problem and you're not going to have an answer for the problem when it comes. But the majority of them you can work with. Like I'm talking about 90%. But it's the other ones that we worried about. They done made some monsters, some horrible individuals out of what was a human. Right? They done ruined them. They no longer fit. So, I mean, I don't believe in life in prison, but I believe in the death penalty. But the people that's not fit, I don't know what to do with them. I have no clue what to do with the ones that they done ruined so bad that you can't let them walk down the street with regular people. Can you imagine how bad they done mess somebody up where they can't walk down the street with regular people unless they look for a cause of action to ruin somebody else's life? I was in there. I looked in some of the coldest, darkest eyes you could ever see. And I done looked in some of the coldest, bluest eyes you'd never see. And I done looked in some of the coldest hazel eyes you'd never see. But ain't none of these motherfuckers got no soul. And all these motherfuckers ain't pale. They got people who look like me. Look, I had a Bunky being so tormented. Well, Bunky is the dude that's your roommate in prison. Your Bunky, your Sally, depending on where you at. But I had one that was being so tormented that he used to have nightmares that's terrifying, the energy that's projected off of him while he's going through this nightmare. It make you look in the street. A lady wake up next to him having a nightmare might hurt him. She might hurt him. I don't know. You can't just turn them loose on no island like that. You know that used to be a way that they used to punish people in Europe, exile you to an island. But I mean, I don't believe in making people excessively suffer. So I wouldn't exile nobody to an island like that. But I don't know if y'all don't even know, y'all can't even imagine. I can get downright wicked and still won't scratch the surface of these people. I ain't backing down from no dragon. Right? And some of these people gonna make the dragon back down. This is a whole nother level of destruction of the psyche of the human. This is worse than creating the Manchurian Candidate, because this one don't have a shut-off code. At least a Manchurian Candidate got a activation code and a shut-off code. Some of these creatures they made, these things that they did to people, right? So when we look back at the history, we don't see nobody explaining with a valid story of how we end up going from being slaves to owning all of this land. Look, the narrative that we told in history, ask anybody if I'm making this up that know our history. Frederick Douglass was said to have left the plantation after he whooped Massa. Let that marinate for a minute. Super nigga. He whooped Massa, left the plantation, and lived happily ever after. Don't that story sound a little fishy? Don't it sound a little weird? Frederick Douglass was a slave, so they say. And he got to be a teenager up in age. And the master came out there and jumped on Fred, and Fred whooped his ass. What's the one from the Boondocks? The super nigga from the Boondocks? Oh man, what's that dude name? Catcher Freeman. Catcher Freeman. That nigga had to be Catcher Freeman, man. Look, Frederick Douglass grew up on the plantation. Y'all paying attention, right? And I remember, if you put your hands on Massa, they killing you. And Massa came out, decided that Fred was getting too big for his britches. So we gonna learn him a lesson. Come here, Fred, I'm gonna learn you one today, boy. And went to whooping on Fred. Fred tore his ass up. You don't have to believe me. It's in the autobiography of Frederick Douglass because he told that lie. He said that he whooped Massa and then he left. He didn't say he left running and sneaking. He said he packed his bags and left. Like he left with a duffel bag. Like he left. He walked off the plantation, broad open daylight, never looked back, and they ain't never come pursuing him. This the story they tell us now. We supposed to believe it. Anybody do this sound strange or oddly off a little bit to anybody besides me? He in the plantation South. On the plantation with the slave master. Look, Frederick Douglass wrote in his autobiography. He grew up on the plantation. When he got to smelling his testicles, the master came out there trying to force him to do something. Him and Fred get to scrapping. He gonna learn Fred something today. And Fred turned around and learned Massa a lesson. He didn't just learn him a lesson. He learned Massa a lesson. Then he went and packed his bag and left in broad open daylight. He just walked off the plantation with no resistance. Nobody not saying, I paid $300 for you. None of this. He just walked off the plantation. Why would they let one of us, when in the height of slavery now, we supposed to be oppressed. We supposed to be beyond oppressed. We supposed to be less than human with no rights. And they just let this one Catcher Freeman decide after he whooped Massa ass, he just gonna walk off the plantation. And we don't find that story kind of fishy. But I brought Frederick Douglass up for a different reason. But that just sticks out so broad in my mind. Like, who is this nigga to whoop the Massa and then walk off with no resistance? Right? So look, there was a bank in the Carolinas, I think, and the bank was in distress. Frederick Douglass had the money and the means to bail the bank out. Where you get that money from? Anybody hustles the block know it ain't easy to come up with $1,000. It's not easy to get $1,000. Frederick, fresh out of slavery, whooping a slave master, supposed to be in hiding. Mind you, he supposed to be in hiding, but he some kind of way come up with enough money to bail this bank out. Where you get all that money from? And what about them other Negroes that was also having all of this money to support, finance, and maintain banks? Where them banks go, though? Who absorbed them, and how did they end up losing their prominence and power? See, those was tribal banks is what y'all not paying attention to. And these tribal banks was being shut down by outlaws. And as the outlaws shut down tribal banks, the corporate bank then had to expand because other banks was not able to keep up with a stable currency. So the currency that's stable is the one that's coming out of the U.S. Mint. And it wasn't the Federal Reserve at that time, but Congress was printing and producing the money for the corporation. Those are just credits. That's why they're not backed by nothing. They had nothing to do with the real wealth of the land that's being extracted by the outside forces. Those are credits. Those are internal notes only for the to settle debts within the circle of those who were supposed to be under their own vine and fig tree. And they vine and fig tree was defined by the original constitution that only gave them 13 colonies. And then they had a centralized colony called DC that came about on the heels of the Constitution when they instituted the artificial Masonic government under the Scottish Rite Freemasons, and they began to set up Washington, D.C., which was Rome. And then they tell you all roads lead to Rome. And Rome, Rome, that D.C. was founded by a guy named Francis Pope. Ain't that something? We on our way out of this, and Pope Francis is the Pope of Rome? Or so they tell us. I think he a robot. They keep sliding him under the bed every night. I couldn't figure out for the longest why they keep putting this man in this box until I was